Hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Akhilesh Suman and you are watching a special report on India-Guyana relations. In this report, we will show you how the relations between India, the world's largest democracy, and Guyana, with its majority Indian origin population, are addressing the development needs of both countries, resulting in a win-win situation for them, as well as fulfilling their foreign policy goals.
Guyana is one of the most strategically located countries in South America. It is also an emerging hotspot of oil and gas. In the 19th century, Guyana was at the center of the gold rush that saw Western powers moving in to exploit its resources. Today, Guyana is coming closer to India for both strategic purposes as well as development cooperation. With a view to strengthen his country's relations with India, Guyana's Vice President Bharat Jagdev arrived in Delhi on a 6-day visit on 20th of February. The visit was intended to help the Guyanese leader and his delegation to have a broader perspective of the bilateral relationship as well as its trajectory. The visiting Guyanese dignitary met Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar on 23rd February. Both leaders held in-depth discussions on issues relating to mutual and regional importance. They also discussed global concerns like the post-COVID recovery as well as the impact of Russia-Ukraine war.
This trip is very important. This shows the significance that we have for Guyana. This is the third time in the last 2 months that a high-level visit from that country has taken place. We had the president of the country visiting India during the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas in Indore. Then we had the defense minister visiting India during the Aero India at Bengaluru earlier this month, and now the vice president is here. So this shows that Guyana is a very important country for India and South America. It is a country with whom we've had long ties. Diplomatic relations have been on since the independence of the country in mid-60s.
Various areas of cooperation were discussed between the two leaders. They appreciated the close and cordial relations shared by India and Guyana, as well as strong people-to-people ties, economic linkages, and commonalities of approach on multilateral issues. Both leaders also agreed to continue to work on strengthening of the bilateral partnership in sectors including petroleum and natural gas, agriculture, agro-processing, education, healthcare, capacity building, ICT, renewable energy, and climate change. Cooperation in these areas will fulfill the development goals of both the countries.
Well, I think there is an agreement which has been signed on in terms of air traffic. I think there's an agreement that there could be direct link of air link between India and Guyana.
Later, the Guyanese Vice President called on President Draupadi Murmu. Jagdev, who is also the former president of his country, termed it a courtesy call. Both leaders exchanged views about their respective democracies.
The Indian president noted that during her meeting with the vice president that about 300%, there has been a 300% increase in trade between the two countries. And, but she also made a point that there is a need to diversify trade between India and Guyana.
In another meeting, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and the visiting Guyanese Vice President affirmed the immense development potential for both countries in their bilateral ties.
Guyanese Vice President Bharat Jagdev has been one of the strongest leaders of the South American country. In Guyana, there is a political tradition that leaders keep contributing in their political lives even at one ladder lower than earlier. For example, a president can become a vice president later for the requirements of the party and the country.
Vice President Bharat Jagdev has been the president of Guyana between 1999 and 2011. He has been vice president of the country since 2020. Jagdev belongs to a family of indentured laborers who left India 175 years ago to make Guyana their home. Indian Guyanese form almost 40% of the total population of the country. Most of them have Indian names and retain Indian cultural and religious practices. Although they have very few linguistic or family contacts in India, they have a fondness for Indian music, Indian movies and TV shows, and wear Indian costumes during festive and religious occasions.
The cultural relations are of course very, very strong, because despite the fact that the people of Indian origin were taken under semi-slavery condition known as indentured, and they were looked down upon by the local people, saying that one doesn't know what religion they have, from what country they have come and all that. But they kind of suffered from that kind of a complex, but they showed that their culture was strong, so they preserved the culture, traditions, food habits, festivals. Of course, language they started losing because of they were forced to kind of not follow it, and then there was some disruption. But the best part is that the culture, all the important festivals of India, they are doing it, whether it is from South India, whether it is from North India.
The interactions of the Guyanese dignitary with Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar also focused on rich diversity that is present in both countries and its impact on democracy. In Guyana, Indian origin Guyanese form the majority. Africans, Europeans and Chinese are part of the mixed population along with indigenous or aboriginal people. Most of the people who went from India to Guyana hailed from the Bhojpuri-speaking areas of Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. That is why Phagwa, the name of Holi festival in Bihar and eastern UP, is celebrated in Guyana as a major community event. Indian cultural teams regularly visit Guyana to strengthen this cultural connect.
If you do not have the support of the diverse groups, then you cannot survive in politics. So this is the strength, and I think the acceptability of Indian is not because they have the majority, but also their policy cuts across these divisions, these diversities. Whether some of them are kind of indigenous people also, because it is part of that Amazon area and all that. They are also organizing visits of Guyanese who come to India to look for their cultural roots. There is a tremendous interest in trying to find out where our parents had gone, because the record is not very well kept. So whether it is, I think the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago also found his root in Faizabad. The Commonwealth former Chief of State Sridhar Ramphal found his roots in Gaya. Now this is another aspect which has also kept the interest between our two countries very strong.
With a view to celebrate and strengthen the cultural similarities between the two countries, the Swami Vivekanand Cultural Center in Georgetown, an arm of the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, was established in Guyana in 1972. Indian classical dance, yoga, Hindi and Sanskrit languages and music are taught at the Cultural Center. Besides organizing dance, yoga and music classes, the Cultural Center also organizes cultural events round the year and promotes events organized by local cultural and social organizations. Phagwa or Holi is one of the major festivals of Guyana.
Cultural ties are very important. Soft power is an important part of a country's foreign policy, and it is very important to develop a connect with the people of the country and involve them in understanding our culture, not just the people of Indian origin, but that of the other Guyanese origin in Guyana. They need to be connected with India culturally to make them closer to us. We are separated by number of oceans and continents. So I think culture could be an important interface in bringing people of the two regions together.
In his talks with Indian dignitaries, Guyana's Vice President Jagdev recalled the immense pride that Guyanese feel in their Indian origins as well as their own improved status in local society. They're also nostalgic about India's gift to Guyana in 2013 on 175th anniversary of Arrival Day. The monument consists of 6 bronze statues commemorating the arrival of the first group of indentured laborers in Guyana on 5th of May 1838. Also popularly known as the Kolkata Monument, it has been put up at the place where the first batch of Indians landed in the country.
Guyana is an important country in South America. We are developing close ties with countries across the world. India is looking at connecting with the global South, and Guyana is an important country within the global South, an important partner for India in South America.
Situated almost 15,000 kilometers from India, Guyana is located on the northeastern shoulder of South American continent and is bound by Suriname on east, Venezuela on west, and Brazil on the south and southwest. It has an area of about 2,15,000 square kilometers and a population of 7,50,000 people. With a population density of just 3.3 persons per square kilometer, Guyana has 4 natural regions. It is on the bank of Atlantic Ocean with a 400-kilometer long coastline.
It is also located on the Atlantic coast, so that makes it important for us to have ties with the Atlantic Ocean facing countries in South America.
The difficult terrain, because too many small river belts, because ultimately this is in South America. I mean, because it is the northern part of South America. From one side you have I think British this is the French Guyana, and the other side is Dutch Guyana, which is now known as Suriname. So that diversity creates problem of moving from one place to another, particularly in the rural areas.
The history of Guyana has much in common with that of India. Both were British colonies. Guyana got its independence from British colonial rule on 26 May 1966. It is known as the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and has a parliament that is unicameral National Assembly. It has 65 parliament members elected by proportional representation every 5 years under universal adult suffrage. The election is held in 2 parts. The first part comprises 40 seats to the National Assembly on the basis of the whole region of Guyana, and the second part comprises of election of 25 members from 10 geographical constituencies. Executive power is held by the President, who is directly elected through an election.
This is a kind of new phrase that they acquired, because the communists were very strong at one stage, and then they thought that okay, because there has to be amity between the blacks and the Indians and a little bit of Chinese and some others and all that let's create a framework where the new constitution was created, which was called Cooperative Republic, just as we have a cooperative federalism. Maybe, of course, there are not too many states and all, it's a small country, but it was in that spirit to gain the confidence of the other community that I think they devised this phrase, Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and I think it's a institutional innovation, I think, which we must welcome, that they were good at kind of coming out with such a dynamic term, and I think that also explains the political stability, and I think the country has also progressed.
In his discussions with Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, Guyanese Vice President Jagdev explained how the resources of Guyana can be best used and how India can help Guyana reap its benefits. Guyana is rich in crude oil, and India imports a part of its crude from Guyana. The discovery of major crude oil reserves off the Atlantic coast has since had a huge impact on Guyana's GDP ever since drilling began in 2019. Guyana's GDP grew sharply through the COVID-19 pandemic year of 2020 that is continued in 2021. The non-oil sectors in Guyana include bauxite and gold mines, timber, and shrimp fishing. It also has huge reserves of minerals like semi-precious stones, kaolin, silica sand, soapstone, kyanite, feldspar, mica, limonite, laterite, and manganese. Radioactive materials, copper, molybdenum, tungsten, iron, and nickel are also mined in Guyana.
India's relations with Guyana have been warm and cordial through the years. there has been a high degree of understanding among the leadership that has fructified in many high-level visits. The bilateral interaction is also structured to periodic joint commissions, foreign office consultations, cultural exchange, as well as Indian technical and economic cooperation program.
Although structured bilateral visits are not very frequent, there are meetings of leaders at international conferences either in India or abroad. Then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh had met with President Bharat Jagdev during the CHOGM Summit in Trinidad and Tobago in November 2009. President Jagdev embarked on a private visit to India in January 2011 and after demitting office in February 2012 to attend the Delhi Sustainable Development Summit 2012. The third round of Foreign Office consultations were held in Georgetown on 15th of July 2011. Prime Minister of Guyana, Samuel Hintz, visited India in October 2012 to attend international seminar on energy access.
President of Guyana showcases that countries from very far can also become important partner for India if there is a will and desire between the two countries to connect with each other, and that's the case between India and Guyana.
Initial period there was a lot of struggle. I think Indians had to kind of accept not being very strongly ensconced in politics, but gradually they started consolidating their economic position. So they were kind of saving a lot, they were doing good agriculture and then business, and when they become economic elite they also joined the politics. But sometimes this the black versus Indians and then Asians and all that happened. Incidentally, the very first Prime Minister of Guyana was Cheddi Jagan, whose government was ousted by the American supported coup and all that, saying that he was a communist and all that. It's a different matter that much later his party was, I think, People's Party of something like that and all that. And so that tradition has continued. And Mr. Jagdev is a kind of the senior person, so I think the very fact that I think he has continued in the ruling party whenever that party is there, whether it is in the capacity of a president or vice president, speaks of his acceptability.
President Donald Ramavatar paid an official visit to India from 7 to 12 January 2015 as the chief guest for the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas 2015 held in Gandhinagar, Gujarat. He was conferred the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman Award during the event. In 2023, President Irfan visited Indore as chief guest at the Pravasi Bharatiya Sammelan.
India is a world leader in developing Pratibha talent and utilizing Prododiki technology, and we look forward to further collaborating in these two areas. With the development of talent and the sharing of technology, India stands way ahead of all others.
Ever since its independence in May 1996, India's relationship with Guyana has been a close one. It has also been strengthened by many visits at the highest level. In fact, India opened its mission even a year before Guyana's formal independence. The warmth in the relationship remains unaffected with changes in governments either in India or in Guyana. Former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi visited Guyana in 1968, while late Dr. Shankar Dayal Sharma, the then Vice President of India, visited Guyana in 1988, and Bhairav Singh Shekhawat, the then Vice President of India, went on a state visit to Guyana in 2006. Prime Minister Modi also has a warm relationship with the Guyanese leadership. India and Guyana view each other as strategic partners and cooperate in the international arena with a clear convergence on views on issues of mutual interest. Guyana had to close down its mission in India in 1990 due to economic reasons, but the mission was reopened in 2004. Prime Minister Modi met Dr. Karen Cummings, the Guyanese Foreign Minister, at the first ever summit meeting with leaders of 14 CARICOM countries on the sidelines of the 7th UNGA in New York on 25th September 2019. On 23rd September 2019, External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar also met with the Guyanese Foreign Minister. Cooperation between the two countries formed a major part of Vice President Dhankar's discussions with his Guyanese counterpart. Earlier, India offered credit facilities to Guyana for use in mutually accepted designated fields, agriculture and information technology. Indian companies have also expressed their interest in biofuel, energy, minerals and pharmaceuticals. The total bilateral trade turnover remains low, although the trend is positive and encouraging. The Indian government has helped the government of Guyana in completing projects like the National Cricket Stadium, supply and installation of 50 solar traffic lights, drainage pumps, and setting up of a center of excellence in information technology. Some projects are under completion like the ocean-going vessel for passenger ferry, construction of East Bank East Coast Road linkage, acquisition of fixed and mobile pumps and associated structures and spare, upgradation of 3 regional hospitals, rice husk gasifier, and assistance for quick impact community development projects. India and Guyana have a trade totaling almost $7 billion in favor of Guyana because of India's energy imports.
Now the world is moving towards greener transition, towards a cleaner economy. There also Guyana is important because it has mineral deposits of minerals such as bauxites, which can be used for when we move towards energy, renewable energy. India has also partnered with Guyana in solar energy. It was one of the founding members of the International Solar Alliance.
And finally, the love for cricket, a vital factor that binds two countries. With the launch of the Indian Premier League, a number of Guyanese players have been contracted to play in India. India is also training Guyanese cricket players, the grateful beneficiaries of our soft power. Recently, following India's stress on growing millets, Guyana offered 200 acres of agricultural land for cultivation and production of millets for the private sectors. India is spearheading this millet movement in the year of millets in 2023.
And thus, we are at the end of the report. While remembering that India's vaccine supply was one of the factors that further cemented our ties with emotional warmth, there is hope that relations are moving fast into the strategic arena. Since Guyana is also a member of OIC, its importance for India is immense. Akhilesh Suman for Sunset Television.